Hello and a warm welcome back to the WenDirkCast with me, Jimbo, and as always, we'll be discussing latest MFL updates, transfers, developments, and so much more that has gone on over the last week or so. One important note, none of what we chat about is financial advice. Do your own scouting or hire a director of Metaverse Football. We've got a guest today, and I've got a little new co-host for this particular episode. This person is also Dutch, and that was literally the only qualifying requirement for this role was if you're Dutch, then and have great hair as well. Then you can co-host episode with me. So joining me in this episode is none other than Mr. Zootert. How you doing, sir?
Very good, my sir. I think it was the easiest job interview I ever went through. Just be Dutch, have good hair, so
Yeah,
it was just a natural 1+1 to get in here.
Nice and easy. So yeah, Zootert will be sort of like co-hosting this particular episode with me, and I think having more than two people is much better as well. And joining us for the Manager Spotlight episode 108. Ironically, both Zootert and I have met this person IRL before, so it's kind of weird to have someone on the pod that we've met before. Usually it's the other way around. Usually it's everything's digital and then you meet in person in this new age. But we met him in Paris. We've now got him on the pod. Welcome in Dacas. Otherwise, we're going to call him Dan. But welcome to the pod, my man. How you doing?
Yeah, great, thank you. It's really good. And obviously the co-host needs to have great hair, the guest needs to have no hair, right? That's the criteria today. But no, it's fantastic to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
No problem at all. So we will we'll put Dan into the Manager Spotlight later in the episode. But obviously, first of all, we're going to do our usual weekly updates, moment of the week, dev updates. And there's been quite a lot that's gone on this week, which is quite nice. We had the drop as well. Big thank you to all of you tuned in to the pack drop stream on Wednesday. Zuta, obviously, I know you're a little bit of a VIP when it comes to the Twitch community side. So thank you for all those little gifty subs that you do. I can now say that on the pod for that. So moment of the week, or just how's our week's been? Zuta, I'm going to come to you first. We have now just finished the round of 16 of the cups, so I'm hoping this will be more weighted towards the cups, hopefully for the positive reasons, or it could be negative. Zuta, how's your week been?
Not all too well in terms of the cups, unfortunately. Went through on 3 of my 4 group stages, but 2 have fallen already. So just the one ice club that's now trying to go for success, but unfortunately the other 2 couldn't make it through.
So you're who did you lose to? Do you remember the managers?
Good question. I can quickly.
Sorry, I should have. That's the one question.
I just quickly looked at the results. I have no clue who it was against. Actually, nah, can't look it up now.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
But, so, do you know who you're playing next in that one you went through?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I haven't looked it up yet. So no, I've been not too prepared on my own team to see how they did or what they're gonna do.
Did you get any progression though?
Did.
You did. See, you know, if you lose a game, it doesn't matter because if you get progression, I feel like that just soothes the pain, gets rid of it.
One certain legendary playing for the Wyverns got a +1 today. So
yeah, we love him, big old Jackson. I'll mention him when I do my little bit. But hey, the league's going. Go on, Dan.
I say I know a moment of the week. You from the drop, you opened your pack, didn't you? Your rare pack.
Certainly, yeah. I also got another legendary there. So, yeah, this last week I got my first 3 legendaries all in the span of 4 days.
That's not bad. That's not bad. And you said that you managed to get him on loan in silver, right?
Big Will sent a juicy 5% offer, and off he went.
And he progressed? He was out of the group stage as well, wasn't he, for the cup too?
No,
right?
no, he was still in. I haven't actually looked how he did today, but
oh no, so sorry. I'm sorry if he's lost the game and you got that. But that's still a very juicy amount of MFL. I mean, we joked, I'll try and get him on the Wyverns. You messaged me and was like, I've got 5% in silver. Make me take it. Please just take it. I can't give you anything like that in bronze. To compete in bronze, I have to give you like, well, I don't know what the equivalent percentage would be. But no, I think it's a pretty good week for you. If you had to put a number on it, out of 10, what would you?
It's been a solid 8.
Solid 8. Oh, that's
Yeah.
decent week. Decent week then. Dan, come to yourself. How's your week been?
It's been an interesting one because the season's been a little bit tough for tactics, but there's a little Discord group, me, Zootert, kind of joined together after meeting in Paris, a couple of other guys that we've met kind of through MFL and So Rare, and we had some good interactions earlier in the week about how do we get through this engine at the moment, because I think all of us have been struggling. One of the guys sadly is really struggling. He was kind of hoping to get promoted, and he's 11th in a nice division.
Sounds
So
like my
it's kind of
Wyverns.
yeah. So it's been between us all kind of trying to figure it out. So that was actually a really nice part of this week for MFL, I would say. Like that coming together and having friends where you are openly sharing tactics and talking. So I that was probably my highlight of the MFL week because the results aren't. So
The results aren't good, so we've got to go something else. That's lovely
yeah.
though. And I think
Yeah.
we've seen so many. There are loads of sort of even like sub communities or group chats that exist, and I think that's really great to see them all. And so how many of you are in that particular chat? Just
There's four of us, yeah.
Four.
So we kind of set it up just pretty much straight after Paris because
Yeah.
said Zutert's obviously an Ajax fan, right? Lives in Amsterdam. The friend that I came across from Somewhere with is an Ajax fan who lives in Amsterdam. So I was like, immediately when I met Zootert, I was like, I need to introduce you guys to each other because there's a massive common interest there in terms of supported teams and obviously also MFL. So yeah, it's been a good group to kind of have our daily
Rant.
musings. Yeah,
Oh, that's
rant a lot of
lovely.
the
I love
times,
that.
but yeah. But it has really, I don't know, that was what Paris kind of brought, was that ability to have more discourse, right, about this game. Like for me personally, anyway, I had Chris. There was like the one guy I spoke to, and then but otherwise it was just sat in my house, right, playing this game, and no one in the street wants to talk about MFL. So you kind of, but going to Paris and like expanding that group and kind of meeting more people, I was just incredible. Like the meetup there was difficult to get to with all those plane strikes and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, good old French with their
Don't
strikes.
remind me about it.
Yeah, you had to drive
Yeah.
right from Amsterdam, so that was my flight got cancelled. But it was, and I was like thinking, staring at it, going, "This is going to cost me hundreds an hour," but God, it was worth it. Like when your drive was worth it, right? My
Certainly, yeah.
massive. Anyway, so that's like the highlight of the week. Really has just been that group kind of helping get through what has otherwise been a tough MFL week, to be honest. So
I love that.
it's nice to have
That's a
friends.
really I love to hear that. I think probably I think that's a unique one we've had. We've not had that one before about that coming together community and helping each other. That all being said, does that mean your week result wise has been absolutely horrendous? Then it must be quite bad
Yeah,
to not even mention it.
yeah, it's been quite bad. I mean, like the season, I'm definitely not. None of the teams are performing so badly that it's not recoverable, but they're not meeting expectations pretty much across. I've got 8 clubs, so none of them are in the playoffs or above. There are 2 or 3 that we're always going to be in relegation battles, and they're kind of just, I don't know, too close for comfort. But no, I only had one team still in the cup, and to be honest, I focused the cup. I think the cup's I don't know, your teams are all equal strength, right? So it's kind of, to me, or like close to equal strength. So I think it's where you can really demonstrate your skills as a manager, let's say, by beating teams that are at your level. Because obviously in the leagues you can buy out the competition, or you can be way under. So it's kind of more erratic. But a cup should just be, it's all this similar strength. So I put effort into the cups in the last couple of seasons, and last season got to a final and had deep progression for multiple clubs, and 7 out of 8 got knocked out in the groups, and then today got knocked out in the knockout stages. So with the main team, so it's been a rough week.
Yeah, well, hopefully next week, well, this week, when people listen to this, is better for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, then you could maybe say like 10 for the community side, and we'll call it like a. You can go 2 different versions if you want.
No. I would say it's a 7 overall, because obviously, like football as well, it's like winning and losing, right? Like you can't. I mean, you have to have, let's say, with variance in MFL. If your mood it relies upon getting results that you desire and expect, then your mood's going to go down. So I think it's been a 7. Like, the difficulties or the adversity is something else to experience. It's something clubs experience, right? And it's just been season 7 was a brilliant season for me. Like, got multiple promotions, deep in the cups, and season 8 has been a more challenging one. So you get your wins and your losses. So for me, it's been a 7 still.
Yeah,
because I still enjoy the game. Even if I'm losing, it's still fun to figure it out.
amen to that. I like that.
Positive
I love
mindset.
that. So then, I've been very fortunate that both my teams are now into the quarterfinals of the cups. The Wyverns, I think they're in their highest ever cup category. I always forget if it's I think it might be Challengers 4. I can't remember.
It's Challengers.
Challengers Group 4 or Tier 4. Sorry. We played in Brandon's Pugadelphia, I think it is. Play on words of Pugs in Philadelphia, and beat them 3-1, which is great. I really need to hope for a decent cup run because, well, for those who watch the streams, you're well aware of the absolute shambles that the Wyverns are having in the league this season. So I kind of need to get a decent run in the cup to try and alleviate and soothe some of the pain of potential lack of MFL earnings from the league side. I still believe that I can get out of the relegation zone I think I'm like 6 points or 5 points out from the playoff, even if from pure safety. But I think I've definitely got the team to do it. Zootert,
You beat first yesterday, so
I mean, yeah, I beat first with a rotated side. Like, I've got it. I think is that this is what frustrates me the most. The team has got it in them. When I'm just going to a really bad analogy. I was going to say Man City last season. The Wyverns are not Man City, but when they've got it in them, but they just somehow just don't get the results every week. You're like, this can't go on, can it? And Mick McCarthy once said, "It can, it can,
Yeah,
it can. It does keep going." I played SUFC Blades' team, and he had like 3 shots the whole game, 3 on target, 3 shots. We drew 1-1, and I had like 22 shots the whole game. I was like, right, I'm going to set up like this. It's going to counter his 4-2-4 because he's going to have an absolute piss in the midfield. Dominated him. And then he's, unlucky Jimbo, Dumbo, whatever. Now I'm like, I can't. I need that lad to be humbled. I can't drop below him in the league. And he probably will end up beating me in the league. But there's so many people in that bronze league who I'm just really good friends with. Which is what I love, that community bit. It makes it enhances the rivalries and makes the games more meaningful. However, if you're on the bad end of that result, or the negative side of that result, then you get absolute pelters thrown at you. But the second club is second in their ice league. They should get promoted. They should really be first. But I've now got this debate where I've got to start thinking about rotations in the leagues, because I think tomorrow on the Tuesday is the next cup game, and then we're gonna have to go from there. But yeah, I'd probably say it's been about probably about a 7, I'd say, for me as well. Zuta, your lad Jackson progressing to an 86. He got, what was it? Was it passing and dribbling +1 today? Like 90 to 91, 89 to 90. Yeah, a huge increase. You said that he only needs like one more
passing, I believe, to get another +1 overall. So he's doing great at his almost retirement age now.
And that will be
starting to hurt more and more.
Yeah, he threw up the badge this season, didn't he?
He did.
And if he gets another +1, that's +3 this season, breaking through the rare to Lego jail as well, which is the tier jail, which is a huge one. So I'm hoping. I mean, that's one thing I've been quite fortunate with this season. Progression's kind of gone my way a bit, and that's one of my ways of playing NFL. Is I don't want to just buy players who are better overall or better stats. I want to see if I can let a player live out his career and hope that progression, and put them in the best conditions for development to hopefully they progress. So, it's sad knowing realistically that I'm not going to get him back next season, because I know that you'll take him back. I don't blame you. But
it depends. If I manage to go up to bronze, then he has to come to
of
Gloucester.
course, yeah.
But if I end up staying down, then maybe if the Wyverns stay up, who knows?
Yeah, the Wyverns. If the Wyverns stay up, I'd love to have him back. It means we'll have 2 legendary wingers then, or midfielders, which is very nice. But right, so Suter, you had an 8, Dan 7, I had a 7. That sounds like a pretty positive week then. I think we've all had. So now we're going to go to dev updates. So they released a new experimental engine alongside the mid-season report. Once we've done this dev update, we will just have a little bit of a brief discussion on the mid-season report. You can select the experimental engine now when starting games, which is always great, and you can go and test. I always say I'm going to do some, but I never do. Whilst games are going on, I find it quite difficult to try and use experimental engine because aside from maybe getting ahead of the curve, but changes will happen as a result of this testing that happens now, but before the preseason. So I could test now and it can be a little bit, irrelevant as such. Because of leagues and cup games going on, I've just not got the focus on preseason or on experimental engine stuff. But what it does now,
Tell you what,
gone
as
down.
well, I was going to say, I also use personally, I'm still doing friendlies mid-season for this season because there's still things to, when you're kind of looking into your opponents or, your results aren't going your way, I'm still, what if I change this? Like I'm having big problems with this or that. And so I'll like tinker around, try different formations, this kind of thing. So like using the experimental engine at that point is kind of like, for me, that's a preseason activity, right? To be able to like learn what's coming, what's relevant to you now. Because I think what I've noticed in the few seasons I've been playing this game is that every season is so different that actually what happened in season 7 doesn't help you in season 8 most of the time.
Yeah, Zootert, will you use this experimental engine before pre-season, or you're one like us, you won't really use it?
I have tried it a little bit to just see what the heat map does and the new shot feature, but other than that, it's just like Dan said, to use friendlies to improve my this season tactic, but not yet for next season.
Yeah, and like you just said, I hadn't mentioned it just then, but the heat maps and shot charts have now been added so directly visible during matches, which is quite neat. It's not sort of like a post-match thing. You can watch them happening real time. There's quite a lot of useful information you can acquire from those, but it's getting closer towards that, say, like Football Manager style of capabilities and functionalities. Some people will use them, some people won't use them, but it's the fact that there is an option for you to view, and it's great for sort of if you're doing any any posting on socials, or how do people say, I would love a heat map, I'd love a shot map, that sort of thing. So it's great to see those on there. As always, you can click on the engine version and go straight to the patch notes to see when things change.
I think I am going to be interested in that heat map. Like I say, if that's in the experimental engine, that might be a reason. I wouldn't have guessed that was going to be the case, but I've always wondered. I generally like playing as high line as possible, like try in the friendlies to see what I can get away with. But sometimes when I'm watching the games in 2D, it's hard to like see how high or not is the line. Like I'll have like a pen on the screen and kind of try and
I draw
do
screenshot
this.
and draw a ruler on it or something.
Yeah, like literally, and like thinking how, and especially if you're watching someone else, like have they got a high line or a low line? But obviously the heat map, I'm going to assume is going to start showing where that like the centre backs at least are going to be kind of at, like they'll be deeper or higher, and that will be an interesting thing for me anyway to see how much that impacts it, because I guess different formations are more, well, obviously they are more effective if you're playing against a high or a low line, right? So if people are doing that consistently every week, but it's hard, I think, from watching replays to really grasp it. But the heat maps might give you that instant feedback, which would be really interesting.
And you're able to select it via like, in possession, if the team's in possession, the team's out of possession, if the player's on the ball. You can really look at different sort of options for that heat map. So you can, the centre back, we're looking at the width of fullbacks or the width out of in possession. You're trying to understand, when I move that slider, where actually on the pitch do they, the dots move on the team instructions, right? But then does that directly correlate, and we can better understand that. So I think it just gives people the option to, and it's exciting as well.
The first time I use it, it's actually really confused me, because when you go to the heat map, it's auto-selected my left mid, and I thought it was just for my entire team. And I thought, why are all my players just running up that left side? But turned out it was a per player heat map thing.
The coolest one's going to be for me, I think, like putting the whole team on, say, like balanced positional freedom, but put a cam on high and just see the difference between balance and high. Like you've got a roaming playmaker versus a not roaming, or if you make him low, right? Low versus high. Because I think, I've definitely played around and making the whole team low, the whole team high, and then gone, can you see? But I don't know, the heat map I think will be really interesting just to see, are they drifting left, right? Is it forwards, deeper? Or is it actually kind of how impactful are those individual instructions? I think that's going to be more impactful than I probably thought. Just when you said it's in the engine and you can play friendlies now and look at it, I was like,
For those who want to go a bit deeper with their tactics, it's an added layer, add a bit of flavor, to use a phrase Cavill always says on it, to SMFL. So yeah, I'll probably on that basis maybe do a bit more testing. I'll say that. Will I with all the games and the cups and the streams, etc.? No, but I'll probably show off for maybe some of the streams and stuff during the week. But it is cool. And speaking of new things, they introduced a new landing page this week, which is very cool. I don't know if Zootert, you've probably seen it, I think, because on the little map of people around the world, you are representing the Netherlands. Yeah. Obviously, people going, oh, what about Calvi? He's in Poland, so he's taken that Polish.
I would have actually expected Dio on there.
Yeah, true, Dio. Yeah. I've taken the English one. I did see someone says, "Oh, why is Nep not on there?" And I was like, "Oh, you got a point to be fair." But sorry, Nep, I've taken the east of England here. Well, I know he's not east, but I was like, I've taken this little English slot. But Lucas did say, if you look on there, you can see which regions sort of haven't been represented, but in terms of if you're from a part of America which doesn't have a dot on it and you don't mind like you being there, contact Lucas and he will put you, and you can be there and have it. So if you live in Quito, Ecuador, then pop yourself there. You do have to live there. Big up Quito, by the way, in the little Ecuadorian Bosco's hoodie from one of his clubs. But yeah, I think it's great to see, and I think it looks a lot cleaner. There's even some small things like last hour or two of live marketplace transactions and what it shows on there. It's an upgrade on what we had previously. So big up to Lucas for pushing that out there and doing that piece of work.
And as an aside, when someone said that comment about Nep being on the thing, I thought someone's going to have to pay. They have to pay for licensing for Nep to be on the front cover. Like, you're not going to get that for free.
The onboarding checklist, which I think onboarding is always a discussion with MFL community, etc. They said they made good progress on the onboarding checklist for season for release in season 9. So exciting. It feels like quite a lot of few things been brewing in season 8 and prior, and maybe season 9 we see a few of those things being released. And the last one before we have a little discussion. God, yep, fire away.
Yeah, just because onboarding, I'm looking at it on the notes, but I don't know what that is. What's the onboarding checklist?
I think it will, probably wanting to revamp just the whole onboarding process, whether it's
new users.
Bringing in new users and what that experience is like for them entering the game. I mean, my experience of onboarding was probably completely different to both of yours, because we all joined the game at different periods where there was different levels of onboarding. Like when I was there, there wasn't even like a tutorial. You just got stuck in. I mean, in my defense, clubs weren't even a thing back then. But yeah, there wasn't a tutorial. There was none of the languages thing. They're all small bits of onboarding that have changed to enable more users across the world to be able to play. So I think it's just things like that. And maybe there's new ways. We've always said, really cool. If it's quite hard for new users to generate MFL as they start, but maybe it's like sort of they can do like quests, or once you've selected your lineup and set tactics, you can get like a little bit of MFL, and then you can experience what development centers like without having to wait X amount of weeks and to perform a season, because there's always that lag for when you get your first MFL, and people want to get in there and get amongst it straight away. But if there's things like that, and I'm not saying that's going to be on there, but that would be really cool for them to do, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of EAFC that just came out this week, right? With the change your club name, get 200 coins, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
so that's the sort of.
I think there's a level of directions they can actually go with that, because at the start of the game you select your assistants, but once you've run through the tutorial, you never see them again. So to get that in more, and actually like the quest you said, like with the Sealy quest a couple seasons back, to actually get the new users familiar with the game through that would be a great way.
Yeah. like Danny just said there about like the EAFC, and they have their own little quests. It's changing your club name or doing this, you get so many points or an achievement or something like that. It just
Remove your background.
Oh no, exactly. That should be the biggest reward possible. I think. Really, I'm hoping
1,000
that will be
MFL.
there. I think it will be there. Well, yeah, exactly. No, I think it should be. Just give
Yeah,
give
we were
a
in Paris,
pack
and
for
that first night, I got that dinner with the guys, right, with the devs, and that was really nice. But I sort of spent some time saying to them that as a new user, I really struggled. Like Calver's videos helped tremendously, but he said they wouldn't have existed back when you started.
Mm.
And but now, like I said, I got my first pack, like bought my first club, got my pack, had my 2 players, and it was like offer them a contract, but they were free agents. I was like, is someone gonna steal my players? Like I
Yeah.
did. What do I need to offer them? If I offer them 0%, are they gonna say no? Like I didn't. Or if I give them percent, where's that money going to go? Am I just going to like, is it just going to disappear because it goes into their bank accounts rather than, it was this kind of thing. And they were like, how does someone think that? And I was like, because I didn't have any other, I was like, come from Football Manager. So for me, I'm like, I didn't have the idea of an agency. I was like, it's my club.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that kind of, that thing. So I think that obviously like Calver's videos really helped, but I think potentially there's almost like a step even further back where it's when you first turn it on, it's like, what's the point of the game here, right? And obviously that you could ask 50 managers here,
You'll get a different
what
answer.
is the point of the game for you? You get a different one, but you could at least like say, hey, there are some people that want to build an agency to loan players and see them progress, and obviously like sell them to make real life money, this kind of thing, or use MFL to buy packs, whatever the motivation is. Some people are trying to win platinum division and and everything in between, but it could even just like introduce, here's 3 personas of people that play this game, so you can choose what you want. But if it kind of explained that and it says click which one you think you're most happy with and gives you some more information. But I thought when I first came as a new user, I was completely overwhelmed. So anything like that I think helps.
I always had in the back of my head that I feel like the individual steps to playing MFL aren't complicated, but it can be overwhelming at first. There's lots of small things you have to get used to, and those, if you learn them one at a time, this is coming from someone who's been in the game for 3 years, so once you learn how to create a contract, you learn it there and then. But if you're thrown into it, like I said, Dan was like, how do I do a contract? How do I do agency all at once? That's quite intimidating, quite a lot at once. But it would be broken down, like the quest or the assistant manager would show you, oh, do this, and once users, I feel like, go through that experience once on how to do things, it's just, for the rest of your MFL career, it's a rinse and repeat sort of job, but it's just feeling confident learning it in the first place. Because quite a few people learn things off the back of making a mistake. And once you make a mistake, hopefully you don't make it again. But it's like the contracts putting someone auto accept for 0%, and you're like, oh, but he's now my key player, and he's gone to someone, and an 84 rated in ice is going to be binned, and the player won't reject it keeps rejecting cancellation requests, those sort of things, right? So yeah, any onboarding, updates would be
I think it's
welcomed.
I think the main thing to me is that nothing is too obvious. I think that's probably what I would say from when I started, was that there's the white paper's brilliant. I read it all the way through, still didn't understand how to manage my agency. I understood progression, how to manage it, but because I created my agency midway through a season, I was spending ages going, how do I join a league? I'm missing out on all the games. But I'm not one of those people that jumped into Discord and said, hey, can you help me? I kind of wanted to learn myself through the platform, and that was effectively impossible. And I know that obviously it is the sort of game, it is a very social game. The community is everything in its weird way. I suppose you probably should be trying to get people to come into the Discord to do it, but not every user's like that, right? Like you think about like personas of, say, Football Manager players who never played online, but maybe want to give this a go at some point, and then they might not want to speak to anyone else. And if they can't figure it out easily on that first landing page, they might just jump out again, right?
Yeah, exactly. The first impression matters a lot, and we want to have as much being within MFL itself rather than having to go to Discord. As much as Discord's a great place, and you have those communities, you've got your group chats and so on and so forth. people, not everyone has Discord, not everyone goes on YouTube, but if they can have something within there from an onboarding perspective, that'd be really great. So, well, hopefully there'll be some good things that come out of this for release in season 9. So we got just quick jumping back to EAFC. I just want to say really loose connection. I want to say big thanks to Laird for jumping in on stream on Wednesday for the pack drop stream, because Nep got early access. So he couldn't. He was supposed to be Nep on with me on the stream, but he had to jump out. But fortunately, and I'm very appreciative of Nep, he was like, "But Laird can jump in my place." It wasn't like, Jimbo, I can't do it." I was like, "Oh," like 2 hours before, I was like, "Hello." But he's like, "Oh, Laird can jump in," and he's gonna. I was like, "Okay, appreciate that from Nep." So hopefully his grind of packs was 10 times worse than our experience of watching Zootert get a Lego upgrade in one of his rare packs, which I'm sure that is definitely how it went.
What beats MFL Lego?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't think it does. Nothing. And you can't. That play doesn't progress in FIFA, or Ultimate Team or whatever. So no, I think we've the right side of the coin here. But the last one here, predefined tactical changes. Briefly mentioned this on last week's dev update. They're resuming development of it again. The development is nearly complete for the first iteration of predefined tactical changes. Yak did even come into the stream on Monday and asked us all a question about it, which was like, I'm probably going to butcher this because I can barely remember it, and it completely stumped my brain on Monday. I think most of the viewers as well. That he basically was saying, if you create a predefined tactic for a lineup and then go and remove that predefined tactic, like preset, does it then remove the predefined tactic from the lineup you associated it with? I think that was it, Zootert, if you can remember. Was that something along those lines?
Yeah, along those lines, yeah.
Along those lines. And we were like, and we're like, no, I don't think it should delete it. But he was like, no, that's what we thought, but we just wanted to get a sense check from the community.
Yeah, basically his question was, if you have a preset set for a specific game and then you change your standard tactic, should it also remove it for the game preset?
Yeah. And we were like, no, I don't think it should remove it. No. Because you get someone who goes, oh, my tactic, I definitely said it, where is it? Even if they didn't want it, they'd still, have a go at that.
So because I definitely got lost there, and I assume
I'm still lost as well, Dan. I'm still lost as well.
The first time as well.
If I'll try and ask it from a different angle. So if I have a default tactic, let's say I'm playing 4-4-2, a centre back gets sent off. I want a striker to be. You said you can't substitute, right? Is that not a thing? Are they going to be able to sub in a player, or is it just going to be you can move the formation?
I think it will be what we can already do tactically that we can adjust. That would be my assumption, and I think that's probably the best one to make.
So if you were 4-4-2, you wouldn't be able to say, because I think that's probably the only thing that I thought would be really important would be that I don't want two strikers. Like you'd want to almost go 4-4-1, right, in that particular situation. But let me not.
It's confusing for us as
well.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, it's basically if you were setting it up in your default tactics, so you have it so that if you get a red card, let's just say take Zootert's thing and say go more defensive, and then you have set custom tactic for a match, and you'll say no, in this case because it's a must-win game, I want it to go very attacking. Even if someone gets sent off, I don't want that to happen. They've just got to keep going for the win. Are you saying that if you set that keep going for the win for that game, that would then persist, or is it that the priority is left with when you do it in the default tactics?
Oh my god, I think your questions. Yeah, that's a really. I will defer to Yaxu's knowledge that when he listens to this sometime next week, he will hear this and hopefully respond and tag us in Discord.
yeah.
On that assumption that hopefully he can answer.
Yeah.
But it might be this time next week it gets revealed. Oh, here's how it's all going to work, and that's answered our question, and we're happy. But I can't answer that right now, guys.
No. It's actually really funny because then it just makes you start to think how deep can it get, right? But what is predefined tactical changes? But yeah, that one would make sense if you're in the cup, right? Like you don't want to go. So you might actually want to sit when you're in the cup because you want to get to penalties. You're thinking, I just need to, get through to the end. But then in the league where I don't know, it's just that. And then which way is it going to go? You want to know when you've got multiple clubs. You don't want to have to be every game doing the predefined tactical changes, right? You kind of want, I would imagine most people will just want a philosophy that they can apply generally across the things. But
yeah. The one thing that wasn't dev updates was any update on the kit maker. So maybe very soon that is revealed to us. We'll have to wait and see. I know, Dan, we briefly spoke just before recording. You're a big fan of the kit maker and what's to come with it, right?
Yeah, I would really like when one of my players scores, and I say most of my teams have got a black kit, and so with a different flair based on which club it is. So I know exactly what my shirts will look like, but I don't like it when my blue team, let's say, scores and the guy's wearing a Norwich shirt. Right? It kind of frustrates me a little bit. So I don't think that's necessarily what the kit maker is actually set out to do. Imagine it's more just for to kind of build out the kit colors more and have, I don't know, you can have stripes or hoops, whichever, that sort of thing. But I would love it if it also translates so that your selected kit for that club then applies to the players. Even if you're loaning someone out, that they then adopt the kit of the team that they're actually playing for at the time. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I would assume in the game that's how it, in the matches that's how it would be. Maybe not on the player's card unless they can do it. But I don't know if the player's card is like. Well, I ain't got a clue. I was going to go into some techie
Yeah.
stuff, but I ain't just got a Scooby. I've got a
I
clue.
asked about it in Paris. Like I said, is that something that can be done? And there was that kind of look of, there's no reason why not. Like, this is what
Anything is
this
possible, as
change has
Jack
allowed
says.
us to do it. Yeah, like they were like, it's a cool idea. It's not something we're going to do tomorrow because, as we can see, there's so much cool stuff they're rolling out all the time. But it was definitely a, hey, if that's something people want, then that's achievable. Like, so
Yeah.
I would love that. Like I said, there's the things about immersion. I was a massive fan of the idea of having the real faces,
Yeah.
and I've loved it since. Like the very first day when there was some race changes was a little bit jarring, but once I'd kind of forgotten who was what race before and now, I just love it, and I think that tiny last step would just be those kits being the same. So when my favorite striker scores, he's wearing
The kit.
he's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
colours.
demonstrating the pride, and it makes a big difference to me. Like for me, the story, the fantasy of the football and the management is like a huge part of the game for me. So
yeah.
it would help.
Zootert, are you looking forward to the kit maker? You got your colours lined up?
Yeah. From the moment I first started making my clubs, I've always envisioned what kind of kit they
kits,
would
yeah.
wear. So I got it already in my head. Just whenever the kit maker drops, just need to press some buttons and
Yep.
it will be beautiful.
I think many of us are like that. Where we made our clubs, we already had like what the home and away cards are going to be. Can I have a kit to show it off? What are they going to, some concept designs of finding a website or using AI now because it's very powerful at generating things like that to try and make some kits and go, oh, can I get anything close to that in, from the templates we're going to give? And I think it's probably about 10, 12 different templates. I think it's the current existing patterns across all the players right now. We're going to get that, but we can add our own club sort of colours to it. But I'm looking forward to that. I don't want to see a player for the Wyverns in blue and white, get stuffed. I want to see you playing in green and yellow, how it should be.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say we're going to be able to add our own sponsors, which can you imagine the state of it that would happen if that was allowed?
IMFF's like, nope, you can have no front of shirt betting sponsors or no gambling ones. Anyway, the last piece of the update this week is that they released the mid-season report. So it sort of goes through a bit of for those stat nerds out there. It runs through some of the stats from this halfway point in season 8 and looks back at previous seasons and says, how does it compare? What are some of the things that we've looked from at this data? What hasn't gone quite so well? What do we think we're going to be changing? So just to sort of, briefly run through it, because it's definitely something that's worth reading, especially if you're someone who's had sort of like your opinions and voiced your opinions on the engine and you want to go look at what are going mental about, there's being loads of goals in this engine. Long story short, and to cut to the point, no, you're not. For season 8, they increased the shots essentially in the matches, but as a result of that, the goals per match rose to as high to 3.7, which their target's around like 3 per match, so it rose by quite a bit. The shots increased as intended, but the goals went drastically above. I think drastically is probably the quite rare word to use there. Above what they were anticipating, but their goal is to then reduce. Their goal is to reduce the amount of goals. There we go, brilliant one. Their objective is to reduce the amount of goals scored in season 9 whilst keeping shots at that level. And I think we've all experienced probably wacky games of like 5-all, 6-2, 6-3. And I'm all for goals, but I'm also for a bit about why is every game. If you're a betting man, you can put both teams to score both halves. You'd be a millionaire, I'm pretty sure, from season 8 this season. But have either of you two chaps experienced lots of goals? When we say that there's been lots of goals this season, do you feel that on the pitch, on the screen when you're watching your games?
Yeah, it really depends, I think. I've had games where it's 6-2, 6-3 or whatever, and then nothing changes, same formation on both sides, and then it ends in 0-0. So a lot of variance again in the results there to see. But yeah, that's also how it should be. So it's not always a bad thing to see a huge variance in results.
I've definitely seen a lot of goals, and I think one of the things I think is missing from this report is the timing of the goals. Because for me, I don't think I see a game where there isn't a goal. Well, 80% plus of games, there's a goal after 90 minutes. Like if you're winning 2-1, there's that feeling. It's not just like nerves or it matters to you. It's almost cynical that there's going to be another goal in this game, like and it's. I'd be interested to see, and obviously the stats would make me look stupid because they'd be wrong, but that's just my lived experience has been that there have been so many late goals, and it's that the predefined tactical changes obviously might change that in the future if you're able to say, if winning, go defensive. But the amount of times I've conceded goals from corners in the 93rd minute with 4 minutes added on, where all my defenders have gone up for the corner, right? And you're just like, cool, this guy's playing a low block with direct, so all he wants is all my defenders up so that he can boot the ball up, have one shot on target, and equalise and draw 1-1. And that has been really noticeable for me. Then yes, there's no 1-1 draws, they're 3-3 draws or 4-4 draws, but it's been the timing of it, whether it's to increase excitement that the game's never over or something, I don't know. But I feel like I can really tell there's a difference with the time of goals, and late winners, late equalisers is rampant this season, it feels to me.
I feel like in previous reports they may have included when goals had happened in, say, like 15-minute periods. That's the common one, isn't it? It's every 15 minutes, you 0 to 15, so on and so forth.
90 plus.
Yeah, and then 90 plus, or 45 plus, etc. So maybe in like a full season report, we might be able to sort of see and get a deeper look into those stats. But just a quick highlight on some of the other pieces. They said red cards are back to target levels, but yellow cards are still low. Upsets decreased due to the big number of goals, which kind of checks out to a bit. Adjustments will be made in season 9 to keep upsets stable. The new XG model is more accurate and fairer. I think we've all had our qualms on XG. I think it's a bit of a poo-poo stat at times, and you can make your own opinions on XG, but I think in isolation it's not there's a saying, facts don't care about feelings. But in MFL, feelings definitely care way more about than stats. If we lose a game, we don't care about stats. We just care about the feelings of us in that loss. It says it still underestimates goals because it doesn't account for player skill differences. And I guess that's one of the things with XG. It's just a formula, and there's many different variants of how XG is calculated out there. And I guess it's about them trying to use some baseline modeling and then adjusting it to fit MFL, and not trying to use. I feel like last couple of seasons I've seen penalties change from like 0.7 to 0.76. I'm not saying that's a big thing, but it's like, well, it's a subjective stat and how it's calculated, so you're always going to get that in there. But I always like seeing these sort of mid-season reports. It gives people a bit of an insight into the data side, and it's metrics that they look at, so you can understand where the changes are coming from.
It's the first time I've actually looked at one of these, so I'm actually quite surprised. But how much data goes into it, and the real leagues they look at to compare stuff with. So it's actually really an interesting read to go through and to see how they get to their engine each season.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I highly recommend people, if you've not read it, go and read it, and for you, Zootert, go back and read all the previous seasons ones.
Yeah, I've definitely read them. They are good. They're always good, and definitely when I was a new user, it helped me understand a lot more about how things were going and why they were going that way. I think with XG, I think most users would be lying if they didn't say that they'd had a game where they doubled their opponent's XG and lost 1-0 and wanted to throw their monitor out the window. But I think obviously the more seasoned you become, the more you've seen that happen and you understand more about it. I think generally the understanding really is if you've got an XG of 3 and not scored, there's actually a tactical problem going on there. It's not just the engine's ruined me. It's actually what are you doing? Is that long shots? Are there just like
Yeah,
loads of long shots that are being
peppering.
blocked? Is it and like are you what have you done to mean that you
Yeah,
haven't been able to break that opponent down rather than on another day I would have won 3-0. Well,
no.
maybe, but
Yeah, horses for courses sort of thing. Let's progress on to the Diamond League. If Calvin knew we were 46 minutes in on dev updates, he would probably be seething right now. But I think that was a lot more than dev updates we were discussing there. But I love all the conversation. So I'm going to briefly share my screen to show the Diamond League. Last time we were here, Sid's Los Galacticos were still top of the league, and lo and behold, they are still top of the league. 2 points ahead of Naples Gold Feathers, Bishoni Milano, and Meta Mercenaries all joint second. And last week we discussed, even 2 weeks ago, we discussed what would happen to the world if Meta Mercenaries got relegated. It's now potentially looking like they've turned things around and might be winning the league again. I know they're still 2 points off top, but when they've won your last 4 games on the bounce, I don't know if Ronan's brought in any upgrades, but once Meta Mercenaries get going, they're pretty darn hard to stop. Even though this is just a game of numbers, nothing to do with sort of players' personalities, etc., and momentum as such. But yeah, Meta Mercenaries, they are fourth there, joint second. I think they have goals against. I was going to say they conceded the least. No, I was looking at the goal differences, goals against. Good one, Jimbo. Then at the other end of the league, we've got Marseille Meta Squad. Probably done and dusted, really. Same with 3X. Bob's Diamond team in his inaugural season, sitting there in 10th spot. But because of the 2 teams, 11th and 12th, almost, I'm not going to say heisting or giving up 3 points a game to everyone. Everyone's going to get 6 points from playing them because to be more competitive, they've got more than 0 points, which is, something that other Diamond League teams in previous seasons can't say. It does mean the rest of the league is quite close. You only need 2 wins if you're 7th at this point. Depending on other results, I know you could jump to first, for example. It's a very tight league still. So this looks like from the upper end of the league, it's going to be one that will play out until the final couple of match days, which is really exciting because we want to see it go down to the last match day, right? That's when all the best parts happen, all the juicy matches, last Premier League games of the season, who's going to get Champions League, who's going to get the title, who's going to get relegated. They're the match days we're all living for. So, Sid, I don't want to, congratulate you any more than we already have done, but top stuff on being first in your first season of Diamond, being promoted from Platinum. But Dan, we always ask our guests, do you ever look at the Diamond League? And we often get the response of, if I have players who play in there, then yes, but otherwise I'm too focused on my own. What do you check out Diamond League at all?
I don't, but I listen to it through you guys and
Yeah.
appreciate the coverage for it, and I think it's important. Like I think that the whole point of the pyramid is it should be what people aspire to. We touched earlier on people play the games in different ways. I suppose for me, it's so far ahead of what is relevant for me. Like it's not like teams are going to come down. Like my top team's in bronze, right? So like if I was in gold or platinum, I might be more interested in looking up the chain a bit. I did once watch a few of the matches just to see how different is it to the lower level stuff, like how does a team of 90 plus rated players play compared to a team of 60 rated players. And it's interesting that to me it didn't look like incredibly different.
I've always found the
So
biggest difference is it feels a lot quicker to watch. The speed is unreal. The speed of play is unbelievably quick. Unless all my players are apparently under 40 pace, but I'm pretty sure that but my initial opinion of going up the pyramid is that the speed of play increases dramatically. But all these players are so similar in overalls and stats, where you could argue actually if everything is tighter and more competitive, then there may not be as much outlandish things happening in events, because in bronze you'll get a couple of 90, you might get like high 80s we see in these days versus low 80s, and that's a big gap, whereas here there's so much competition going on. So
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought, obviously we've got the face stats on the cards, and I asked the guys in Paris, and they said no, there's definitely not any more stats that are invisible that sit behind it. I can see in Football Manager you've got your, I don't know, 30 stats or something like this that you can see, but then there's also in the database hidden a load of others. So I was saying, like, there's definitely some players I think that I own that outperform their stats. So I was just saying, like, hey, is that just my feeling? Like, am I just like
great
biased?
scouting.
I
Great
like that
scouting.
player. Well, that was it, right? Because obviously we play Football Manager, you'd watch games and you'd be able to go, that guy is better than he looks or whatever, and then you'd buy them. So, but they said no. So you'd think like first touch. The reason I went down that road is like a first touch. You'd think in ice, you shouldn't see like a striker having a ball pinged into him and him just like turning on a sixpence, right? And then first time into the bottom corner. So I was watching it for that, like rather than say just speed, but like, are they clearly technically better? And I suppose over time that'd be something I'd enjoy to see more of, is if it's like, I might then be more interested in watching the Diamond League if the games were intrinsically different than ice.
Are there particular events or highlights that only happen in the upper divisions because of the technical level or the stats of those players? If more free kicks go in because they've got better shooting, for example, or you see better through balls because the passing stat is high. Those sort of things. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point. I never really thought about that, to be fair.
Because you say technical goals like worldies, right? Like if people are scoring volley, like clearly scoring volleys and things like this, like it'd just be really interesting to see that technical ability demonstrated more through the higher cards. So I think that probably would be a barrier for me wanting to go up the pyramid more, because that was my original goal, was to arc up and hey, over time I'll keep going. But when I started to feel like, hey, are you just playing with more money, but are you actually getting more game when you're going higher up the pyramid, or are you actually better off just having a load of teams between like Stone and Flint, and are you having a worse time? And I think that would be something that over time I'd like to see them develop, would be that cutting edge when they're in the top. You're like, you know what, I own this Cristiano Ronaldo type player and everyone can see it, and actually people want to watch replays of my games to see how good someone can get.
I like that.
And maybe that is something that's already happening, but because of the 2D engine, you can't actually see the play that is happening. So
yeah, maybe. I don't know. With Football Manager, it was like you could definitely see, right? Like with the TD thing, it's like, because like players can do the first time passing, right? Like if you watched a non-league game in Football Manager versus the Premier League one, the things you would see, like say a non-league player tries to control a ball and they just run it out of play, and you're just like, I just can't wait to get promoted out of this and get better players, right? And then you get to the Premier League level and you've earned the ability to watch, like, and suddenly you're like, I don't just need someone with strength and stamina, I need someone with technical abilities. I think that would be, I think there's a long way to go, and obviously we know you can't just how can they get to that stage without making like a version 2 of the game where you have more stats than what are just on the face card? Because suddenly you've like, someone's got a legendary that's 90 rated, but then finds out that they can't take a free kick or they can't pass, or maybe they're only good at free kick taking and can't pass, and suddenly their player that was worth $1,000, say yesterday, is now worth $100 because the stat distribution is horrific, and there's no way that people aren't going to be winners and losers from that. So anyway,
I like that. It's interesting though. Never really thought about it that way before. Zootert, I want to come to you. 4 wins out of 5 for Meta Mercenaries. Are they back?
I think they are. Yeah, it's a real run of the table they've had in these last couple of days. So I think they're fully back now, fully back in the race and ready to go for the second half of the season.
So what you're telling me there from the answer is that when episode 109, I'll be sharing my screen with whoever's in the studio next Sunday, and Mercenaries will be top of the league. Is that what you're saying?
I'll put a tenner on it.
Oh my word! Here we go. Here we go. He's gonna put a tenner on it. He's putting a tenner on it. There are actually 3 teams who have won 4 out of their last 5, but Meta have won 4 on their bounce, which is quite something. So yeah, our Meta back, and will the world end because they're gonna go from bottom to top in in one league season? Right. Any other questions or any bits on Diamond before we move to Marketplace? Dan, you look raring to say something.
I was like, as soon as he said about betting a tenner, it just made me think, like, imagine if it was easy enough to like code a bookies with MFL dollars on the Diamond League, just the Diamond League, right? Like, there could be a very interesting sink of MFL dollars because they could game the house so that they're raking back 10% generally. But like, it would just be really interesting that I think like ways in which to increase interest in the Diamond League would be really interesting. And if they could open up a bookies for the Diamond League, like even if it's top scorer, winners, even match results, right? It would just be really interesting.
It'd be like outright win every season. Meta Mercenary is just a clear favourite, and everyone else is basically like they got a better odds of getting relegated than they have actually winning the league, sort of thing. It'll be that sort of situation. But I'd love to see the discrepancy between what if that was to happen, what the bets on like over 2.5 goals would be compared to real life. Because if anything to go about what the mid-season report said, you'd be daft to put under 2.5 and that sort of thing. Be weird to see the habits of people what they'd bet on for a Diamond League.
It would be interesting. Like, say, even if it was just like low amounts of NFL, like just to get people wanting to look at it. Like, I think it'd just be interesting. And like, say Meta Mercenaries would have to be 100 to 1 on, right, by the sound of it. But the point being is that it could just generate that bit of interest that someone looks at it more. And I think if I was an owner in the Diamond League, I'd want to feel like people were interested in that league.
Yeah, maybe some
as a whole,
maybe some outright things where it's maybe not so much game to game because it might, but it could be like the start, be like, oh, who's going to be top goal scorer, who's going to be the things which a manager in that division couldn't have any influence on. Obviously, they could have goal scorer.
They still can release the player at the end of the season, and then
of course. There's things like that, which is exactly the reason why that I don't think that's anything MFL will be able to do. It'll always be, I think, like a third party initiative would create something like that because of the implications. It would cause MFL to be an absolute nightmare, I reckon. But it would be very cool though. But because we're dealing with real people who own all these clubs, there's always going to be that level of we talk about tin hats and conspiracy theories with the engine. It's going to be, did so and so, Ronan Gate, he's dropped all of his teams to lose the last game of the season so and so could stay up. You're like, no, I didn't. Like, brother, we saw it. That sort of thing. But I think it'd be a really cool idea. But I think maybe for MFL it might be a bit step too far.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it just in the most innocent part of the idea, it sounded quite fun. But it's definitely unimplementable. But it's fun.
I love it. It'd be a fun concept for them to run it. Right, enough of the Diamond, and let's come to a little short marketplace update. Actually, each week that Cav has not been here, I've been doing slightly more market research or marketplace research, to the fact that I know I have a few more people to shout out for particular rarities that they've been purchasing throughout the marketplace this week. So from the uncommon side, a user by the name of DanW. Don't know what your surname is, but probably something like Wood or yes, if any surname that comes to my head begins with W very quickly. I assume it's English as well. He purchased 11 uncommons this week, which I think is a pretty decent amount. Some people think the marketplace is an absolute dire stakes. These managers, they're like, right, I'm gonna pick up on some bargains here. Big Mr. K's been on the pod before and co-hosts Yorkshire TNXP. Picked up some rares this week, a number of rares. There's 14 Lego sales this week. One of them is this week's Splash of the Week, which we'll get onto in a bit. But I actually have I managed to get myself a rather grand deal. Zootert, you're already well aware of this one, I believe. My goalkeeper, who's now at your club. I managed to pick up a 83 rated goalkeeper who's 26 years old for $79. And you're thinking, Jimbo, how'd you get that fella? That's a hell of a deal. Turns out, 408 Source, also a good friend of the pod, has been on before. He lifted him up when he was 81 rated. He progressed 2 in the space of like a couple of days. Don't think he realised. And I just thought, that's too good to be true. I'll snap it up. He's 6'4". He he was minted for like prior season 1, I believe. He played like 2 or 3 seasons as starter, has barely played at all since. So I'm like, maybe some lost progression there, but I think for that value of that overall, if he only stayed there, is really good still. He's gone +2 this season, playing 2 games as a backup in silver. So I've gone, actually, I think it's quite decent. So I don't want to toot my own horn. I think I've got a hell of a price there. It's a hell of a price when when 408 source, the guy sold him, goes, you bastard. When he's messaged me and gone like, that's a hell of a deal. So I think I've done all right then. Hopefully, Zootert, you can repay the progression favor, and take it from an 83 to an 84. If I can get a goalkeeper to go up 3 overall in one season without playing more than 10 games, I think that's pretty good going.
Yeah, he's starting now. We're flying towards the top of the league, so I'm doing everything I can in that regards.
How did your second league game go of the second half of the season? I saw, did you win your first game?
Yeah.
3-1?
3-0,
So along
I
those
think.
3-0? Yeah. I thought it was 3-1 or 3-0.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. How did the second game go? Yesterday's one.
Yesterday's one, I won 1-0.
Oh, that's what we want. We want these
Yeah.
big clean sheets coming in.
At the start of the season, I was, I think, last or second to last, and now I'm all the way up to fourth, or joined third, actually. So
Yeah.
things are going the right way.
They're going the right way, and now you've got some more Jimbo agency in your squad. I think that's going to bring some good luck. So I'm not counting on you for some more progression, Zootert, but I am. I'm definitely counting on you. Dan,
Sure.
have you been lots of pressure? Last couple of weeks, seasons, is the marketplace something you dabble into every now and then, a bit more of a Pac-Man, or do you sort of target your players in the marketplace who you want?
I was very, very active in the marketplace when I first joined. Like, I mean, I'm definitely not a trader. Like, my sold is dramatically less than my bought. Like, when I buy, I hold them until they retire, kind of person.
It's a sentimental
I kind of
value. You just can't get rid
Yeah.
of them anymore.
Oh no, it really is. It's a problem. Like I know their names. Like, obviously now it's been some of these guys I've had I joined MFL the end of January, so we're 7-8 months really, where every day I'm checking these teams. I know I could like tell you all the names of the players that are in the starting 11s of definitely my top 3-4 teams, and I know easily remember the others when I see them. They're like my little family, right? So
Yeah.
it's difficult. So I had like a plan. Like, I looked at it and I bought players of different ages, and I was like, I want to be able to keep this going for about a year without having to like invest again significantly. So I bought an 18-year-old off Snake for $200 last season, which was probably just before we've had the kind of decline in pricing, but since that I've just not needed any more players. So I kind of keep my eye out. I like look every now and again to see, is there a bargain there, and I don't feel like there are. I know the whole thing's dropped, but I think people are still, most of the players that I see for sale personally, people are wanting better prices and they probably deserve. So I've not dabbled for a while.
What was interesting, we look at this the air table for sale. That's how I get the data for some of these and Splash Week, etc. That a lot of the purchases are happening through offers. Like a lot of them are more than I expected them to be. I'll search for only uncommons that have been sold this week, and it feels like 75% of them are all from offers. Which obviously the last couple of weeks has had its own drama surrounding offers, which we've touched on before. Zootert, yourself, you little dabbler in the marketplace at all?
Yeah, when I see a good deal, I snap one up. It's probably like maybe 2 players a season, and that's it. And the rest come from my pack addiction.
Yeah, good, exactly. And then just when the packs are getting a bit sour and you don't think you got that luck, you get hit with a Lego upgrade, and then you're right
And they
back.
reel
Right, here
me
we go.
right back in. Every
Full
time
circle now.
I tell myself I'm not going to go for this backdrop, but
Yeah.
they knew I was serious this time, and they had to pay up and give me a legendary.
Yeah. Right, and then on to this week's Splash of the Week. And I've got a bit of unfortunate one here because this name I'm going to absolutely butcher. He's from the Czech Republic. So, I'm already pronouncing his first and surnames about 3 different times to try and get the correct pronunciation. Goes by the name of Bohumil Harasek, Bohumil Harasek. I mean,
Sounds Czech to me.
Sounds convincing to me.
Yeah, that's yeah. If you had to guess his nationality, would you have said Czech? Yeah, I think
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, good man.
I couldn't think of any other language it would be.
So this was picked up by Dio for $850. It's an 88 overall, 22-year-old, right mid, right wing, left mid. So that triple position, having the versatility of both left and right mid is really powerful. As an 80 overall, pace 80, shooting 81, passing 93, dribbling 89, defending 76, and physical 76 as well. Sold by Callum Eves to Dio for $850. You might go Jimbo. He was actually sold again not long after for $870 to the DAO. I believe that's because of there's Dio and a couple others do scouting for the DAO, and they'll pick one up and then the DAO will buy it off them. So if a player comes to the marketplace quickly, it's had good progression, don't want to miss out on them, one of them will grab it and then it will get sold to the DAO to use and to cover the fees, etc. So I'm judging by the fact that's the case. It's probably a pretty decent play when it comes to progression because that's something that they quite often look for. And when looking at his progression, he was minted season 7 and he's gone up 1, 2, 3, 4. He's gone up 4. So he's gone up 3 this season from an 86 to an 85 to an 88. So he probably got decent prospects when it comes to progression. That's why they've picked him up. So I'm going to say it is congrats to Dio, even though he stole it to the DAO. I'm not saying congrats BFC DAO. That doesn't quite have the same ring to it as saying congrats Dio. But you are this week's splash of the week. Little bit of IRL MFL. I did catch the Arsenal Man City game. The second half was incredibly boring to watch, and I went to go make myself some fried eggs on toast and miss Martinelli's goal in the process, which was lovely. But it's one of the first times I've seen a Pep Guardiola side play 5 at the back, which was quite surprising. Playing a 5-4-1 and then takes off Haaland and was literally felt like just playing really 5-5. Well, you could argue Docker was up top, but I thought Man City were back in that first half and they're doing all right. But there's been a couple of big games this week. The Merseyside derby, Chelsea, Man U, Arsenal, City. There's been some big matches this weekend. But Dan, you yourself are a
Brentford fan.
Ooh, I'm about to say Pompey, but you're not. It's Brentford fan,
yeah,
right?
I
Yeah.
commentate Portsmouth matches and attend Brentford matches.
Okay. So, have you been commentating on some this year?
I've done, I commentated Portsmouth against Reading in the Carabao Cup.
Oh, sweet.
And I'm supposed to, you'll hate this, I was supposed to commentate Portsmouth Norwich in the league, and I genuinely forgot that I was commentating it. No, I forgot it was a 12:30 kickoff. So
understandable, totally understandable. That happens to me all the time now. Yeah.
So did all my research, and then I got a text half an hour before saying, "I know you sometimes you're a bit late, but this is cutting it fine." And then I was like, "It's an hour away from where I live, in terms of with the traffic." So I was like, even if I set off right now, I won't get there till the game's halfway through. So I had to just. That's the first time that's ever happened to me that I missed.
Wow.
There's 2 of us, so the other guy has to just do it solo. But yeah, I actually missed commentating Pompey Norwich, which is tragic.
My next question was going to be, did you commentate over the Norwich game? Well, obviously there was the pen save. That would have been a really cool one. So would you go to the ground and do that then? How does that all work?
Yeah. It's in the ground. Yeah. So we've got a relationship with the club. I've been doing it for 10 years now, but the service itself's been going for about 12 years. So it started for me working directly for the club, really, as a volunteer for visually impaired supporters, to get that support with audio descriptive commentary, and then from there the hospital kind of inquired, or one of the guys that does it with us inquired about would they be interested in the feed that we use going into the hospitals, and that was all agreed, and we get about 10,000 listeners a game because it
That's
goes
incredible.
to hospitals across Hampshire. So it's nice that you get the feedback that it really helps the patients, and it makes a big difference. And unfortunately, I've had some experience of some relatives being in the hospital long term, and you have that situation where you realize how important it actually is to be able to get that kind of it's for free as well, because obviously they can get premium content, but it's very expensive if you're there for a period of time. So for certain patients, it's a real highlight, well, hopefully a highlight of their week to be able to listen in to the commentary. So
That's incredible. I love that. What a brilliant story that is.
Yeah, it's a nice charitable thing to do, and it brings people happiness. But we go into the ground and just commentate as normal. It's like a normal radio broadcast. Calling in to the studio and interviewing people before the game. We had the managers up and injured players come up and talk to us and stuff like this. So
that's awesome.
Good.
So what you're trying to say to me is that when MFL becomes big enough and we have these sort of like global tournaments on that desk, when there'll be a Twitch stream of thousands of people tuning in to these like round of 16 games, Dan, you will be, we're like, oh, Panther Dan back in the studio, and you're like, oh, big game today. Meta Mercenaries going for their 15th league title in a row. If they win this season, it will make it 70 for their career, for their record. No, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I have, and to be fair, I brought that up to the guys on the first day in Paris. When we had that dinner, like I said, I was sat across, and I was talking to the guys around me, and eventually said, "So, who are you guys?" Because I guess I don't know, and it was like, "Well, I'm Lucas. That's Yax, and that's Mal." And I was like, "Oh God!" So it's all the developers. But so I sort of said, "Hey, I was going to try and catch you guys at some point," but I said, if commentary is anything that's ever something that's interesting for MFL, that I'd be interested.
You're the man.
In giving it a go. Yeah, like I've commentated games to myself, like to see how it would flow, and kind of gave Yax the feedback that from my real life experience that 0.75 is the most realistic speed for the game. And if you're saying the diamond is noticeably faster, then that'll be even more true. But it's interesting how I can tell how fast a pass should go from centre back to centre back, right? It's one of those simple things that when it's being played across the back, and if you're commentating and it's right back, centre back, left back, but in MFL it goes too fast, like the ball moves too quickly. So weird things that you learn because if you're commentating. So yeah, is it 0.8 actually, the speed, whichever is the speed that's one tick below one. No, I think I said that if they could make it 0.75,
that's what you'd want to
have.
Work.
Yeah. I was saying that I think you have to go to half, don't you? It's one and then half. So I was saying that one is too fast and half is obviously way too slow for that purpose. So there'd be something in between. So that was but yeah, long story short, it's definitely something that would be enjoyable. I think that if there are certain games that would do it, I don't know if I've got the consistency to say I'll commentate a diamond game every day or something. But if there was I sort of suggested potentially the cup final, is it the Titans? Is that the top cup?
Yeah, Titans Cup.
The cup final for that. That you might say put that on a separate day and do a stream for that or something. That would be something that I think could be quite cool. Again, kind of going back to me saying earlier that I think some more spotlight on the top divisions could be really healthy for the game. So
I feel like maybe when I do some of the watch alongs for a cup final or so on in the seasons to come, we'll try and organise, and I can sit and smile and try and when the commentator does 90% of the work, and then I'll just chime in for one sentence every couple of minutes in a useless stat that comes out, or Gary Neville going oh, and then that's literally all the feature I'm going to have. But we'll definitely that's something really cool to think about.
Yeah, the co-commentator bit's a nice job. The analyst, right? Because it's so you'd find it surprisingly interesting. I think. But yeah, I'm interested. I'd do that.
Cool. Well, I think we'll have to make that happen. Zootert, can you beat the IRL MFL that Dan has just said to us? I knew Ajax played today. I don't know what the final score was.
2-2 with a late equalizer. So
Okay.
against one of Calva's many supported teams, that was.
Oh, the fraud.
Yeah, no, it's a weird season for us. We're just the results aren't bad, but the football just doesn't play like
It used to.
it is Ajax's football. So just a season and period of constant change of managerial and tactics. So we have to see what comes from this season and just survive for now.
Trust the process. That's what they
Exactly.
got to do. They got to trust the process. Right now, manager spotlight time. Dan, we're going to put the spotlight on you, our little metaphorical metaverse spotlight. When we have our guests on, the best place to start is usually at the beginning. So we always ask our guests, what's your MFL story, your career? How did you first find out about MFL? What attracted you to the game? Take us right back to the beginning when MFL wasn't a part of your life and then how it got into it.
So there was a content creator, is still, I think, but called Jazalda. So he was, I came to know him from SoRare, which I only started, last summer, so last season. I kind of stumbled across it during the Euros, and then went in way too hard early, and I loved it. Jazalda was definitely in the same position as me, where he was just addicted to buying these rare cards and going really hard in with his strategies for the season. So I kind of went along with him, and then was tight member of his community at that point, and then he, I think, got an affiliation with MFL, so started making content about that, and I just sort of thought, hey, the cost of less than the cost of one so rare card, I can buy a club here and see what this is about. Struggled to start with. Like I said, I joined halfway through a season, didn't really know what was happening. So it was definitely, I'll save it for another day to go into the details really of that new user experience for me, but I did definitely struggle. Definitely would have done things differently, but I went in and got an ice club. It was the keto one, and I was disappointed because I was like, "Oh, why keto?" And then later on discovered that was actually
The most valuable location you could get.
The capital
an elite level 4.
MFL.
An elite level location. So I went really heavy on the story of my team, and like really got involved in thinking, hey, this is, what are the attributes of it? I thought I want tall, strong guys, so I like deliberately only bought players that were over 6 foot and had a certain level of physical. So was really into that idea, and I was like thinking, I didn't check the tactics, but my first thought was I wanted to have play for set pieces, right, and score headers from corners, and then realised there is no setting for play for set pieces or whatever. So I was like, oh, this is devastating.
One thing there, I hate to interrupt. There was one bit about experimental engine I never even talked about. Is what Quinton said they've included in it, and you spoke about physical. Said defenders will now use their physical strength to disrupt attackers, making them unable to reach their full speed. So basically, just being a shit house and blocking them, basically.
Yeah.
So sorry, don't want to interrupt your little story there, but I just thought I'd got to come in there and say I completely forgot about some bit of dev updates in the 40 minutes we had. Completely forgot about some stuff, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was it. It was just like so I had a load of tall physical players, and at that when I learned, I was like devastated to see you couldn't have set pieces, and then triple devastated to learn that height didn't matter very much in the engine.
Yeah, minimum
So
impact, doesn't it?
So I invested in players, like overpaid for some of them because of their height, and like 6'6" centre backs and stuff like this. Like thinking, I'm gonna have Christopher Ayer going up for corners.
Good old bit of Brentford.
It just anyway. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was, that was kind of how I started MFL, and then I kind of went in as a whale, I would say, into ice. And I think if I was to do my time again, I'd have either not whaled in ice or obviously bought a club higher up the pyramid. But at that time, I was like, ice was the bottom division, and I want to have a go through the divisions. I want to earn my place as well, because I thought I don't want to buy a team in, say, iron or bronze and then not have earned it. So obviously I had the silly psychology that if I buy a bunch of rares and play them in ice, that will then have earned my place in stone. So, So that was kind of where I started. But I bought a bunch, like I said earlier, like a bunch of players from like 21 up to like 28. So I at least had that understanding that, hey, these players, I don't want them to all retire at the same time. Like the last thing I want is to have to buy a whole new team, at the same time because they're all retiring close together. So, and I bought guys I thought, for whatever reason would progress well. And what's been really nice is the core team that I had in season 3 is my core team now in season 8, and they're in bronze. And yes, they started in ice, but they have progressed significantly. Like like most of them average like +5 or +6, and now it's a very good bronze team. But it wasn't. It was probably a average iron team when I bought it. So it's been nice to see that that progression actually take place as well. So that's kind of where I started.
Yeah, one of the questions we always like to ask as well is, what if anything you do differently? And you sort of already answered it there. It's not you do differently. It's maybe jump up, and we see some managers come on and they've done the exact same thing you've done, and they go, "I wish I would have gone up, bought somewhere up higher, and then gone that way first." But I think a lot of managers can get behind you saying about like deserving to be in a division. Yes, you could say, there's the argument there, you've bought rare players to try and get into iron and they're in ice. I was going to use the term Wrexham, but I can't. That's such a sour point for me right now with Norwich losing to
But
them.
it was how I felt.
But yeah.
That's how I felt. I actually thought Wrexham. Why not? Like Wrexham are doing it. Like why not?
Just yeah, yeah, exactly. And then once you feel like you get there and you deserve it, or you feel like you deserve it because you've got there through winning games to get up to that point in the pyramid, not just buying a club. Because the worst case scenario is you buy a club and iron, buy the rare players, and you get relegated. That's probably the worst case scenario because no one wants to get relegated. Or to those of you who call it demoted, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It's relegated. It's not called demoted. It's not called demotion. And if you try and come in the Twitch chat and say that, yes, that word has been moderated, so you can't say it anymore. Which I think we can get behind.
I mean, I had like a hiccup in the road, and it was part of the learning experience. Was in season 4. That was to me the engine that still hurts my soul. I think direct was just clearly the way to go, but it took me a bit too long to work that out. Like I was being stubborn with what had worked for me in season 3 and just didn't change it. That was my first experience of, hey, the engine is different and you need to react. I didn't know that. I didn't know it changed dramatically season to season. So my team that should have probably gone undefeated finished 5th, I think. And I was mortified. I was embarrassed because there were people who were going up with no rares, and I had probably 10 rares. Like they weren't high 80s, but they were like the 77 to 79 kind of bracket, and people were getting promoted with the 74 kind of average team. So that was definitely just like a skill issue, like a big skill issue. So, and I think you do notice, obviously, when you go through, like I said, with the Wyverns, right? I bet you put a lot, not necessarily for everyone, but I would say as I've gone through the divisions, I've noticed the tactics get sharper, right? People have scouted. You can see that people adapt. People in the higher divisions generally might have 3 or 4 formations rather than one.
Yeah, there's more on the line and there's more at stake. And managers have got there for a reason. We've had questions before, like how far can buying into or buying players get you? And obviously, if you unlimited budget, you can go all the way up to diamond, right? But there is a level. I feel like once you hit, and maybe Zootert, you could chime in here. I always felt bronze was that level, but now with strength creep, iron's becoming very competitive in that sense. Are you noticing sort of like tactical, savviness from a lot of managers, and you can't just get away with sort of that one and done sort of situation when it comes to setups?
No, I think for me it was up until Iron that I could just buy my way in through it. And to be fair, there was only 2 promotions when I first got my first club. But since in Iron and going towards Bronze, you really start to notice a difference that you really need to put more focus into those tactics and to really understand your opponents as well.
I noticed Iron was a step up, definitely. Like, when I went through the ranks, I've got teams now from Flint through to Bronze, and I've got a team in Bronze, Iron, Stone. Yeah, I've got actually a team from Bronze to Flint. I've got at least one club in each. Iron's definitely the graduation. I think so. To me, like, I don't necessarily think I would have changed the way I'd have done it. I just might not have wailed so hard in ice. Like I think, what was it, 22 games, won 20, drew 2, that kind of thing. And it was just every week it was, am I going to win 8-0 or 5-0? It wasn't peak MFL, but it was the opposite of peak in season 4 when I had that same team. I probably should have been having those results again and was losing. I deserved. I mean, I was getting called out on Discord by people for how are you doing this badly with that team, and I was like, I'm embarrassed. I don't know, like they are sliders at the end of the day, rather than I'm not a manager being able to specifically say stuff, but it was gutting. So I do think to a certain extent I wouldn't have changed the way I did it. I did learn a lot through those divisions, and I think iron was a step up, but it was nice to then achieve at that level with my team and get to bronze. And for me, I lost a silver playoff, like the final game. I lost 3-2 so I came third, so I had to win multiple games to get to that last bit.
Horrible route.
Yeah, and I had no expectations at all, because I think Zootert will remember, because I was talking about it in our little group chat. But the guy had like a team full of Legos, and he got a red card after 10 minutes, and then you were like, this could actually happen here. Like, I don't know if I want to be in silver because I don't have the squad for it, and I don't really want to loan and things. But oh wow, and I lost 3-2, so it wasn't the end of the world.
That's kind of to get all that way, all that distance. You've done arguably the hardest bit, which is getting there, and then stuff seems to be going in your favor, and then big old V word pops up, or it's just not going to be your day, and especially when the last game of the season. But I think that team is sitting 5th at the moment, but better than my team's doing in bronze, so that's a positive. Speaking on, you mentioned right at the beginning, moment of the week, how's your week been? 7 out of 10, that sort of thing. Season 8, how's season 8 been treating you this season, Dan?
For the keto team, right, for the top team, it's all right. I lost yesterday because I rested for the cup, which I got knocked out in. So that sucked, because I feel like the cup was, like I said before, like my focus. I think the cup's where I think that's the coolest thing to win. And so I lost the final with this keto team on penalties after, I think my XG was like 2.4, and I don't think my opponent had a shot in the entire game and scored from that corner description that I had earlier, where my players all pushed up with 30 seconds left, and they had literally one shot on target, one goal, and went through to penalties. And I still thought, it's fine, I've got a good set of penalty takers, and lost. So that was a rough couple of days there, like in terms of losing the cup and then the playoffs like that. But this one is still in contention. I think, like, still playing around with tactics a lot, to be honest. And like this bronze league, if you've got it open, is so tight. It's really tight. And I was quite happy. I think Nep is in this one with his top team, so it's like it's an interesting division. Like obviously there's a decent amount of change between which teams came down and which teams came up, but it's the closest I've seen for a while in terms of a league. Like, I was 10th a few games ago, and then now I'm looking at one win off 3rd rather than one loss off 10th. So there's some really good managers in this league, so it's been good fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, let's have a look. You've got Nep's Evo FC Prestige 26. You've got B Sellers in there, who heads up the DAO. I know he's a very astute manager, and because he manages the BFC Barcelona Diamond license, so that's a high caliber manager. Madwoman, she's a very good manager. You've got a lot of very savvy and I think experienced managers. And I think the longer you play MFL, I think you can kind of spot some of the experienced managers. Very cliched thing to say in a game, maybe, about experienced managers, but when there will be particular situations like rotating for cups or rotating for league or just being in these sort of like big games, they would have experienced them more. I guess. So what season did you join, Dan? You
3.
Season 3. Yeah.
I started in season 3. I joined in 2 and first registered for 3.
And do you feel like every season you're learning something new and you're gaining that experience and knowledge each season on season?
100%, yeah. And I think probably one thing I would really love to do, but with the price of clubs kind of being really low down, I think I've got to say, I'd really love if the prices of clubs kind of rebounds a bit. I'd love to go down to 2 clubs or something. I've got 8, so I spend time rotating those players and things like that. And I'd love to spend more time. I've got as all of us do, like busy personal lives, and I'd love to dedicate the time I'm spending to managing 6 clubs that I'm not that interested in to maximizing the results of Keto. And that would really, that's something I'm aspiring towards. But
yeah, with those clubs you've got, then do you have a consistent strategy across them in terms of like how they're set up? Do you try and have a ladder system? Are they individual or are they a cohesive group of clubs in your agency?
it's because I think the engine is so different every season. It's actually I would say at least 7 different formations. I think it's 8. I think all of them play different. Like their core formation is different, and it means that I'm able to spread. I know, like Zootert sounds like I enjoy the packs. Like when I can get them, I don't buy them on floaty or anything, but if I can snag one in the drop, traditionally that's how I've kind of like fed my agency. And obviously that means sometimes you get a right wing back, right, when you're playing a back 4. So you're going, I need to kind of put these across, and I'll probably go into it later and not try and put it all in one go, but I'm enjoying trying to be sustainable with getting my reward packs and opening them in a certain way. And obviously then you can't dictate what position you're going to get. So partly it's to accommodate the players in the agency, but also I kind of like the fact that I'm able to learn a lot more about the game by playing lots of different formations. So like I really enjoy having centre forwards, but they're quite hard to buy.
Yeah,
So
and
I've got
their stat distribution can be quite awkward as well. I feel they have. I always call them one-trick ponies, and I know Zootert, the centre back you've got in that pack, he's a little bit like that, right? Where he's got his defensive stat is proportionally whack compared to the rest of his distribution, right? And
so yeah.
go on.
No, go on, Jim.
No, I was gonna say, in like centre forwards, I feel like a very classic case of that, where they'll have like great pace, great passing, great dribbling, and the shooting will be like worse than the centre backs. And you're like, hang on. So when you get in the business end of the pitch, you're trying to put the ball in the back of the net. You're not going to do the job. But yeah,
no, it's really interesting. So no, for me, I've definitely got a spectrum, and I say it teaches me, but also, I'll see in some of the lower teams, hey, this formation's really performing, and start to actually like modify some of them further up my pyramid. So for me, it's definitely experimental. So I definitely want to develop the players, and definitely I can demonstrate from my agency where I've got players in lower clubs and they've graduated through the tiers. But yeah, it's definitely an enjoyable thing in pre-season where I sit down and say, where is my agency? Which players are progressing? Which is the best club for them? Like you can see, there's a guy called Pablo Sierra in the Keto team who I packed. Just looking at 26, and he was 65 rated, and he's just hit 88 this season.
damn.
And he's 31, so he's gone up. What's that? 23 in 5 seasons. So but obviously each season I've had to be like, where should he be? Because he started off in ice, right, at 65, and then the next season, and he went up like 7, and you're like, okay, so should I put him in a team he's not quite ready for now, but he's gonna be if he progresses? And yeah, it's been interesting to have those clubs in that agency to do that kind of thing.
Those sort of progression ones are a slight conundrum where like it's a problem, but it's a nice problem to have, because you're like, oh, he's progressing really well, and I want him to be in the best place, but he probably will progress regardless of where he is. Speaking of progression, Calvert doesn't get as many mentions now in the pod because of his stepping down from it temporarily. But his Dempsey player, which Zootert, you're fully aware of, Mr. Dempsey, Dan, you might be as well. The infamous player who just refuses to progress. What do you reckon, chaps? Do you reckon he's progressed so far in season 8? No, he's not. Not a single attribute. Like, I kid you not, since Calvert bought him, he's just done poo all. I think this might go down as one of the, worst purchases ever in the history of MFL. Dropping $500 on a player. What's it now? He bought him on the 16th of May. So what's that? We're talking over 4 months ago. Not a single stat increase.
Yeah.
I remember him just trying to justify it as well. I was like, oh, no, it sounds all right. And then one of those, the longer it goes on, you sort of go, oh, no, I think I've made an absolute blunder here. And I wonder what happens. Yeah, what happens first? Calvert return to WenDirk, or or Dempsey progresses. Maybe that's the requirement. Or
yeah, if he gets a +1, he's required to come
got to
back.
come back. Yeah, I'm like, Calvo, you've got to have a chat with me, because the biggest thing just happened this week, and it's your player progressing.
Well, it's interesting actually, because it's Calver cursed my one, so I'll tell the story.
The
because
Calver
it's a good
curse.
one.
The WenDirk has got like
The
bloody
Calver,
Calver curse.
he fully cursed it, right? Because obviously the first time, like you'll see in Paris, you guys met each other for the first time, right? And I got to witness that beautiful moment, and you saw the hair as real, and it was
I couldn't quite believe it either.
so. Yeah, no, so I sat down and I was like, this is the thing. I said I didn't really have any real friends that play this game to understand what it all meant, but I have this player called Adriano Nelson. He's a centre back. I bought him as a 19-year-old, and he was 54 or 55 rated, something like this. And he was just a monster for progression. Like, it was the first monster progression player I'd had, and I paid $7 for him, I think. So I was really, really happy with that. Like, it was genuinely making me fall in love with MFL as well, because I was waking up every day and seeing stat increases on Nelson. Like, literally just waking up and thinking, I want to check Nelson. And has Nelson gone up? And he was. And then one summer, clearly, I don't know how people do it, what database there is, but people had obviously seen this guy's gone, like,
nuts.
So he's a rocket ship. I was getting loads of people just messaging me. I didn't list him, but people were just messaging me saying, I want to buy this guy. I think he's worth $40, linking me NFL assistant. And I'm just like, go away. Like, I know he's not worth $40 or whatever. And eventually I just listed him for $1,000, because I just said, I want people just to realize that I don't want to sell him and just stop pestering me. But then some guy messaged me and we had a bit of a conversation. He offered me $500 for this guy. And he was, at that point, I think he just had his rare tier break. I've put his the link to the player in the chat, but you can probably see the best way to demonstrate the situation of where he was going, right? Or you think there's no way he's not going to be a Lego and going to the moon. And I just said he's just not for sale. So the guy's like, $500 best and final offer, and I was like, no chance. Like, it's what I've put a few $1,000s into this game or whatever, and this guy is my favorite thing about MFL, so I'm definitely not going to sell him. And then I went to Paris, and if you see that graph, that was just about when we arrived in Paris. Then when that flatline happens, and I was showing it to you and Calver and said, where do you think this guy's going to go? Because I reckon he's going to be a 90+.
I remember this as well, by the way. I remember you showing me
and
this.
Calver went, I'm going to show you something that's going to mean you won't sleep at night or whatever. Shows me Dempsey and says, and I just don't think it's ever going to happen again, right? And Nelson, from that moment, just flatlined. It's like he passed on some sort of voodoo curse, right? And just killed my guy. So, and he got a +1 pace upgrade couple of days ago, and I was like, oh god, it's like the flatlined hospital machine, and it's just a little
you're like, is that something?
Oh, could something happen here? But I think you have to just take the fact that he's probably in the same prison that Dempsey's in, and he's never going anywhere. But I don't regret not selling him for $500, because that exhilaration and that excitement of where he could go is part of the magic, right? Like, I think most people would probably agree that having a high progression player in your agency is one of the most fun things. But saying that, people sell them, don't they?
Yeah.
So,
waking up every morning and seeing and knowing there's like a good 80% chance that one of your players is not players, this particular player has +1. I've got a lad who's on loan at Dodzilla, and he messages me every morning, goes, Hudson's progressed again, Jimbo. I'm really happy for you, but I hate the fact he's progressing so much and he's not my own player. I'm really happy for Zootert that I'm progressing Jackson, but oh my word, am I peed off that this bloke might be getting a +3 as a legendary this season, and I'm just there yeah, cool. Can I get some of that as well, please? That does do me in a bit. Zootert, just quickly, progression wise, this season, and speaking about selling players, then how's your progression been this season? And are you a bit of a seller when it comes to players, or you just pack buy and then
I never sell? No, I get too sentimentally attached to players, and I can never sell them. I've one progression monster that I think did +5 or +6 this season, and now in Tier 0 again, and did +19 over his career. So he's doing quite well, but he's coming all the way from 40 something, so he's
Yeah.
got a long
Oh,
way
yeah.
to go to get up there. But it's fun to exactly have those players too. Just every morning, there's a 90% chance that something has happened to them. So
Mm. Yeah, and we always, I commonly say, and I think we both agree that the progression is probably one of the best things about MFL. Yes, the winning the MFL, that's all great, but having someone who's an absolute progression monster is, I mean, I've just a classic case right now is I probably will seen Josh Excels as Varela player who
it's an
who's
absolute beast, that one.
it's just yeah, I think he's gone up. What's it one this season? He's gone up plus 12. And he was originally a 40 rated player and is now 78. And it's only in the last 2.5 seasons he's gone that rise. I don't think he played him for a bit or something along those lines, which is crazy. Zootert, you're an hour ahead of us. So for us, progression hits at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is a very nice time to do like a little bit of a morning routine for progression. Do you do a particular routine when it comes to progression first thing in the morning for training?
No, I'm just usually at work, and I see, oh, it's 11 o'clock. It's time to check my progression now, and
Yeah.
just scroll past it through it then. But no real morning routine. That's part of it.
Right. And on that, I want this week's hashtag of the week to be hashtag and then whatever your progression routine is. I just think make it, you can put spaces in your hashtag for this one, folks. Don't type out ascenders and not put hashtags in there, but hashtag, then whatever your progression routine is. For example, I know that David, SR Monkey, he always gets up like a cup of tea, brews a drink, sits down, puts the news on. Oh, I've got a laptop, bit of progression, that sort of thing. Dan, do you have a particular routine for the morning? You look like somebody would do. You feel? I know you talked about a routine. I feel like maybe there's something for you.
No, it's just I am definitely. I definitely know it's. I don't know. I'm checking at 9:31. Like I'm definitely like it's just it's a really important part of my day, honestly. Like, and it's sad, like the pre-season, if you like, when there's no training or no matches, it's noticeable that I don't have that. So for me, it's just wherever I am, it's checking under the table if I'm, whatever. I need to know.
I like it at the weekend if I'm laying in and I wake up after training's happened. I go, oh my God, I get to wake up to basically Christmas presents under the tree. It says you how it feels rather than, if you're waking up before progression, you're sort of like checking during Christmas Eve.
Has
His
he
father
been
Chris has put
already?
the presents. Have they been down there? No, he's not. No, he's not. But if you wake up after training, then it's already down there to enjoy. And lo and behold, you'd opened it and you've just got a pair of socks or there's nothing in there. That's what happens when you've not got any progression. It's an absolute killer. I just actually want to shout out, Zuta, your headphones right now. Last time you were on the pod, episode 85, but before the Paris meetup. And for those who aren't watching visually, Zuta has the MFL logo on one side, but more importantly, on his right ear, depending on if his screen's mirrored or not, he has the WenDirkCast sticker on the side of his earmuff. I've got mine on the back of my phone. Zutert's got his on there. So
Got to
if
support
any of you
have
if any of you still have the stickers and you've placed them somewhere, let us know. I want to see where those stickers are. I've not seen one on away day yet. If anyone's coming to Norwich away and wants to stick one on, like, the toilets or, the concourse somewhere or a telephone pole or something like that. I welcome all WenDirkCast sticker images to come through, but where you've placed them. But back on track, as my good old co-host would say, let's keep it on the straight and narrow. You mentioned a bit there about progression and want to go up the pyramid and maybe potentially consolidating down to sort of like focus more on the bronze team a bit. Do you have any particular sort of like priorities when you play MFL about, you said at the start quite into like the trading side to it, and then is it more as that sort of dynamic and way of playing shifted for you? How do you play MFL? Because there's many ways you can do it. How do you play MFL, Dan?
Yeah, no, I think that my main thing is that I want to achieve, and obviously not getting knocked out of the cup early with Keto is kind of a big hammer blow to that desire. But to get to the point where I can get those 75 to 79 rare player reward packs. So the way. Obviously, I normally have to have a balance where I'm just short or whatever. But I think on average, I've been picking up like 2 or 3 of those last couple of seasons,
Very
and
nice.
then populating those down into the iron team or the stone team, and then hoping, like this season I got very lucky with like 21 to 23-year-olds. So they're lower rares, but obviously they're cheaper. And then a couple of them have progressed 2 or 3 already. And you're like, okay, so these guys could become legendary. And that's kind of been like and I looked at it and I thought that's the most economical way for me to try and become sustainable. So for me, it's bronze is like the point of which I'm very comfortable, like I'm enjoying it. And I think it's obviously you need, those players in that sort of 80 to 84 kind of range, I guess, as an average. So for me, getting players between 75, 79 and letting them grow a bit so that they graduate into keto is where I'd like to be. So that's.
I've not looked at the full like composition of that bronze club that you've got in terms of players involved. Is it majority owned by yourself? Do you utilize the low market at all?
Oh yeah. It normally is completely owned by myself. This season, I kind of stitched myself up a bit because I was desperately trying to find a centre back, and just before the window closed, I threw out a bunch of offers trying to get. Then I got 2 accepted back to back,
That's how it is.
and ended up with 2 centre backs, and I only wanted one, so I had to then cascade one of my own centre backs down because I was like, I don't need this many centre backs now. But otherwise, it's all owned by me. And I enjoy it that way. And it's not that I'm anti-loans, and certainly when we start getting into the retirement zone, I'm definitely going to be looking more into the loan market and this kind of thing. I'm not like anti-loans, but I've definitely enjoyed owning my own. But I guess if I start loaning more, my MFL farm is going to get nerfed, and then I don't know, it's going to peter out, isn't it? Where I won't be able to kind of, I like the idea of trying to be sustainable to an extent. Like I put a good amount of money in to start with, and obviously I'd have no problem like topping it up as I go, but I didn't really want to be putting in like 4-figure regular investments into the game if I could help it.
Yeah, I think all of us deep down, even if we don't think we want to play sustainably, want to play sustainably because it's it's a cycle of you can keep playing for as long as you want, not have to worry about future investments. Zootert, with your pack purchasing, is the term sustainability banned and moderated within your agency, or is that something you're also trying to aspire for as well?
I think on an overall, my gallery is worth more than I've put in. So somewhere along the line, I did well enough to keep it all in the green. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'd like to be sustainable, but you ask me in like 5 seasons' time when probably most of my players are retired, it's a different story. Got to get planning early, folks. Get planning early.
It's a question I kind of wanted to ask you guys, really, because I think this is like the plan wasn't there for this to happen. So my bronze team, I don't want to have an overpowered bronze team. It's not like how I want to compete fairly, like at this point. That Sierra guy I mentioned has gone from 84 to 88. So I've got an 88 rated striker in bronze. And it's like this thing, I'm attached to him because he's my guy. He started at 65, he's gone to 88, he's 31. At what point is that? Is there someone there that should be buying that player? Like, do I sell that player? Is it correct to just say he's a one man club, he's a one club man and stays in? It's just it's an odd one. But for me, it's a dilemma that I don't know how to overcome because I've now got 4 legendaries. I've had 3 tier breaks this season, so it's really starting to look more like a silver team than a bronze team. But I feel like selling, but I don't know how people would kind of approach that conundrum.
I think with strength creep and how competitive bronze is, probably like a couple of seasons time, even you could argue now, particularly whatever bronze division you're in, 88 is probably a bit too much, but I don't think it will be. I also think so he's one of your big progressors. So let me scrap everything I've just said.
Yeah.
Do you want to sell him or do you need to sell him?
Neither.
Exactly. I don't think you sell
like
him.
Yeah.
If you're if I need to sell him, I can get the funds and I can guarantee promotion. Or I can guarantee X, Y, Z. It will take me to the next level of my agency. Different story, but and you sell them then. But if you don't need to, and you're like just taking with the idea, if anything, maybe I'd be like, right, if he's a bit too good for bronze, can I at least get him loaned out somewhere? I could get a decent amount of MFL to then bring in more 75, 79 packs, or can you then go for an 80 to 84, or can you go the full rarity scale? I'd probably look more towards like the loaning outside or keeping him yourself rather than selling if on the basis you've told me you don't need to sell him.
No, I definitely don't need to. But it's that sustainability thing, isn't it? Like I've always seen when I use the word sustainability, I'm thinking in terms of farming MFL to keep the MFL organically growing it.
Yeah.
But obviously, the thing that as a manager, if you looked at my buys and sells, the sells is like I'd probably be my ratio of buy to sell will be one of the most like different in probably in the community. And for me, sustainability might just be that selling this guy at the, he's not peaked. That's the thing. I can see that he's got more in him. Like he's not stopped. Like he's still going. So he could easily end up 90 or something if he had the right area. And I feel like he was designed in the database to be at a higher level. And then if I want to be sustainable, should I be selling him to even just to keep it in the Dapper wallet to then when I've got these retirements to kind of refill the coffers? I don't know. It's like a question that, for me as a manager, I suppose, that I have to think about, like but sentimentally, like I don't need to. Sentimentally, I love having him, but also I just feel a little bit embarrassed having an 88 rated striker in my division.
I don't think you
and
should feel embarrassed about that at all.
I think it's not a level where it overdoes it by too much. And if he is your one standout guy who really is better than the rest, then one guy is okay on that. If your entire team is looking like that, it would be a different.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, but yeah, that's for me anyway. They're the kind of dilemmas that are there, and that's what makes MFL interesting, isn't it? Having these questions and dilemmas that you have to.
And if you've got a player who's progressed that far, one of the best players agency, from a sustainability point of view, and if this was a real life football club, he probably would have been sold like 2 seasons ago. That's how their sustainability model works. Norwich, you've got an academy player, progresses well, you sell him on. But we won't use the word sentiment and the value these players hold towards us. It is so difficult to pull the trigger on a sale like that, even if you needed to and want to. I probably would keep him. I guess it's easy for me to say that's not my player, not my dilemma, not my Dirk dilemma. But all I can say is he's a very tasty player, though. An Argentine striker. You don't. I don't know how tall he is. Is he quite a Sergio?
5'9". He's got that kind of vibe.
Yeah,
it's a nice stat distribution. Like it's kind of he's grown. He's 85 pace, 96 shooting, 82 physical. They're kind of my 3 key ones. 78 passing, 80 dribbling. He's well rounded. And it's a joy to have him. But yeah, that's the thing. At what point when you've got these high progression players, obviously I said I turned down that offer for Nelson before because it was keeping me interested. But yeah, the only thing that goes against this guy is he's 31, right? So it could be he could get his retirement badge in a week or two, or he could go to his 40. We just don't know.
Yeah, you've got the retirement badge. I guess from a progression point of view, I think once they push past like 31 or 32 as each season, there's a reduction in the amount of XP they can earn. At like 31 or 32 years old, it's a negligible amount. I think it's 32. It's a negligible amount. Just say like 100%, they earn like 99. But the white paper says once they hit 36 years old, their total earnings per season is slashed in half. So that's where, that's where it can be really detrimental to not have a player progressing earlier on in their career. You can miss out 1 or 2 seasons. You miss out 4 or 5. You're playing catch up with, in a game you're never going to be able to win, essentially from a progression point of view. But I think it's, it wouldn't be a bad thing to see how much value you get out of him in terms of a sale if you just have a feeler. But a lot of people have been saying this marketplace is quite tough to sell a player for what you probably value him at and what you want to sell him at. So I think in that case, are you better trying to grab as much MFL you can with him, get him into silver? There'll be plenty of managers in silver who would probably give you 5-6% for him. If Bill Wilbert's going 85 to 5%, you can probably get, is 85 rated your centre back, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that's a hell of a deal you've got there, to be fair. There'll be managers who
and I hadn't even offered him out yet. It was just Big Wilb coming out of nowhere. Here you go.
I feel like I said so because I don't feel Big Wilb doesn't take that many loans. For someone who's got such an agency, he must be like, I really need a bit of strength there. And I guess probably watching the stream as well, he was like, I need to just get in there first.
Yeah, I think he was running one centre back for the entire season, or one natural centre back, and he had 3 right backs who could play centre back as well. So
Yeah.
and then in the mid-season he got 2 new centre backs in, and one of them was my lucky guy.
Bang. You're lucky man in the packs. Right. Our penultimate question before we come round to our questions that Trust and Ron John sent our way last week. Obviously, the one thing we all have in common is we were all at the Paris Meetup, which seems like an absolute arm and leg ago, how long ago it was. Dan, you've mentioned so many great memories and moments you've had from Paris. Is it too difficult for me to ask? Was there one in particular, or you're just going to praise the whole thing, which most of us were doing anyway?
Yeah, I think so. But I think I think we were all super excited, right, when they did the presentation, and I think like that moment when we first saw those the generated faces. Yeah, it was quite a genuinely exciting moment to see that reveal. But no, I mean, probably on a more private level, I met a guy. I think he's a French guy called Poulain, who is a streamer, and I didn't really, everyone around, some awestruck by some of the other guests. It was amazing to meet some people. But me and him sat in a couple of deck chairs watching the end of the Club World Cup, chatting about eFootball for ages. I've kind of hit top 100 in the world on that before, and he streams it quite regularly. So it was, again, as much as MFL is something hard to find people, I've definitely found it hard to find people who like playing eFootball. So we properly bonded over that for half an hour. I think you were sat with us, Zootert, listening to all of that. So
They didn't know what any of it was about, but I was happy to listen in. And
yeah. So I made some very genuine friendships there, and it was that, and I think that's the thing. It's all of it. I could say the dinner on the first night was amazing, walking up with nervousness to meet anyone, right? I sort of was messaging Palmer because we'd spoken a bit over the first few months or whatever, but I've not spoken verbally to anybody. So I just threw myself in there really just to see how it went, and it was just beyond expectation.
Oh, it was unbelievable, yeah. It was when you told me the Saturday, Dad, how was your night last night? Well, I wasn't planning on going out, but I just saw Paris last night, baby. Basically, what you said. I think we all we had good nights, but that Friday night, the opening night for you was you said it was a great one.
Yeah, well, that's it. We all went. Well, I say all. There's a group of us, right, that met, and the devs come out, and we had a dinner and some beers, and it was what we finished about midnight or 1.
Yeah,
and I just was. I'd had a few. I don't know. I had the buzz. So I was trying to get anyone, and everyone's like, "No, we're saving ourselves for tomorrow." And I'm like, "But tomorrow starts at 5 p.m." So I was like, I thought if I just go, other people will come with me. It didn't happen. I just went out on my own and got wasted and met some French people, and
I love that. That's a brilliant story. You're going to do that one sort of thing. Zootert, can I ask you the same question as well? Did you have a particular highlight from Paris? If I had to force you, have to push you for one.
I think just the whole experience of being in the stadium at nighttime, especially when we were just leaving, it was such an unreal experience just to see the stadium at that time of night with all of the lights off. And I think
deathly quiet stadium, but walking through at midnight was weird. Yeah,
I think that was just such a surreal experience. Not even talking about anything of the whole meetup weekend and the amazing things we did there, but that was just such a surreal experience that really stuck by me.
Yeah, I loved it. And it was actually, speaking about things that happened, MFL finally released some of the content that some of us guys filmed for them on Monday about the guessing the prices of players, which is very funny. I was speaking to some mates last week. I was like, we filmed some content in Paris MFL, a bunch of these small things, but I've not said anything from about a number of months. Nearly as bad as me producing the WenDirk vlog, let alone that took a while. This one took longer. And then funnily enough, the next day at 7 o'clock, I think it was Monday, 7 o'clock, they released them. Which, if you've not checked out, it's quite funny. Cavers somehow gets his spot on, which is just unreal smug.
Rigged.
100% rigged. I was going to tweet out that I think I got done dirty by the admin because I feel like I got all of mine right apart from one, and the one I don't get right, I didn't. Oh, it's when Jono Praxi plays goes like, oh, he's crap, like this player. And I swear down, we're all on a table and we are trying so hard not to laugh because like he just goes, it's crap, man. This player's crap. And we're like, I just try not to laugh. But it's great to see some of that content be produced. And that even, you know, I loved the whole event, like meeting everyone, meeting you two. I think meeting the dev team, putting faces to profile pictures, putting voices to profile pictures and agencies. But from a little bit of a personal level, like filming some of the stuff at MFL was quite cool. From always like watching content to be like, oh, do you want to come film something? I was like, that's really cool. I was shitting myself. That's probably the reason I didn't come out, because if I was going to be hungover and then at 10 a.m. I've got to start filming about bloody players, imagine my ropey little voice then. But no, I love the MFL event, and it's so like keep needs a thing like the England one.
To be fair, that's exactly what you guys say. It was you, Jack, Work the Space, and Calver, and all three of you were like, we are doing stuff tomorrow though. But I'm like, we've got to be there till 5, and you're like, yeah, but we need to get up and actually do some stuff.
And you wouldn't have believed we did anything, because until we saw them this week, you just would have thought we're having you on. But right, our final questions, Dan, because I'm going to call it Calver o'clock, 2 hours in.
Sorry.
No, apologise. Time has flown by, and that's the best. It's flown by so quick. And people were actually saying that they loved the longer one last week with Trust and Ron John. So, because there's 2 guests, we've got 2 questions. First question from Ron John, which is a bit ambiguous. Got to make your mind up, see into it a bit more. What would you rather have the most of at MFL? I sarcastically said legendary packs. Obviously, that very ignorant answer. But what would you rather have the most of in MFL if there's one thing?
Yeah, I mean, legendary players, I was going to say, rather than packs. Because packs you can sell for more, right? But I was just thinking like an agency for the players. But I suppose the progression stories, legendary players that have progressed, but that I cultivated rather than bought other people's progression stories. But yeah, the most progression stories. I hope I haven't had all the luck in the world already, because I've had like 2 or 3 rocket ships, so I hope I get a couple more.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Zootert, I'm going to allow you to answer these as well. I know you're not the guest, but you're the ghost, but I feel like you can answer these as well. What would you like to have the most of?
I'm the exact same as Dan on this one. I love the progression, the stories that you wake up for in the morning. So that's just what you want to see, and my answer as well.
Love that. Progression is just such a great answer, isn't it? Because if you have progression, then you've literally, dopamine has been absolutely sent to the max, and you're having a good time. I would say progression, but I'll go a bit different. I'll say trophies. I'll just say trophies. One thing that my agency's been lacking for a number of seasons, I've got to say trophies. Or
fun.
Yeah, no, fun. Yeah, but most fun. If I'm having fun, chances are I've got trophies and I've got progression. So yeah, no, I like that. Outside the box, Zootert. I'm not even called you Zoomy or Zooey this one, which I'm not sure.
Took 2 hours, but you find
yeah. I felt like, oh, could I have done it? Zoomy Zootert. Anyway, trust the process question. Dan, do you have a rival in the game, or rivals in the game?
Yeah, Nemesi. Yeah, rather than a nemesis. It's a shame because a few of them have like left the game over the time, and I wouldn't say like rivals, but like people that I've definitely gone like they, like when I've been going for like back-to-back promotions, and there's been guys that have come up with me. It's funny, one of them was Big Wilbert, but I guess that would have been one of many clubs. So I don't think I didn't live rent-free in his head as much as his club lived in mine. But he kind of that club didn't come up to bronze with me, and I just checked is still in iron now. So we were kind of rising through together for a bit. But it was my ice season where I kind of got some hate, let's say, from other managers in the league. So it's quite interesting because when I joined, Chris, the guy that we both joined together, we got put in the same division as brand new managers. So that was quite nice, and we kind of like learned a lot. And obviously, as I've gone up and teams I've played that have been relegated, so we've kind of got this. I've kind of got in touch still with the trail between where I am and where I've come from. So there's 2 or 3 managers in that ice division that you're like, oh, that's a tricky customer. Like he might have a bad, a low rating, but actually, he's they outperform, and that they're kind of sneaky. So yeah, definitely got managers. I see their names and things like this that you're like, I need to try and outthink them.
Yeah. You want the bragging rights sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm not resting against him.
No,
that kind of thing.
No
right?
way. Zoomy, Zootert.
Yeah,
Your rivals.
I wouldn't say real rivals. They're all just people
On the fence now, are we? Oh, not
you're
really.
very
Yeah.
friendly with because you have been with them in the same leagues for so long, and you chat with them after every game, and then you start loaning them a couple of players, and that player scores a hat trick against you while he's on the other team, and those are experiences that makes it fun. But I wouldn't say any fierce rivalries. They're just all fun, friendly games.
On the fence, Zootert. I wanted you to name and not name and shame, but name one.
Okay, Blades then.
There we go. Great answer.
All
Great
love
answer.
great Blades.
Yeah.
Blades took my cup off me last season, so we
I
can
did
share
just check
Blades.
because obviously you beat me in that cup, Dan, and then I just saw when you were mentioning he lost on pens to him. I was like, anyone to lose to, just don't lose to Blades in a final because he'll give you grief for it.
Yeah, no, he didn't. It just disappeared. My dream just disappeared, and I didn't hear any more about it. But yeah, it was. But I was thinking like that, like rivalries or whatever. Like, say I played you, and I was happy that we drew each other. I didn't expect to beat you, to be honest. But so I messaged you afterwards or whatever. Yeah. I said good game or whatever it was, right? And I just felt like, oh, how is he going to receive that? Because I get knocked out of the cup. I'd be like, I don't want you to shake my hand. Just leave me alone. Yeah,
spit on my hand. Yeah, give a little shake like that sort of thing.
Yeah. I was wanting to say sorry, no hard feelings, but I was like, any message is just like, no, leave me alone. I don't want to know.
I found since I always find that it's people that I just talk to a lot. I'm rivals with. Naturally, Calver's always been a rival. Like, I love him to pieces. When I play him, I don't want to lose against him. Fortunately, Calver's not the bragging type. Whereas if I win, better believe, straight on that Twitter post on the WenDirk account. Straight in there. But also one thing, I love the rivalry side of the game. I think it's brilliant. And it's not even it's just a byproduct of a Football Manager game. There aren't rivalries built in. It's just the people we're playing against, right? But then meeting people at the MFL, at the meetup, meeting people on the podcast, because I've seen you and spoke to you, you naturally become my rival because I know the second we play each other, you know exactly what I look like behind that screen. I know exactly what you look like, and you know the exact emotion that each person will be showing or feeling in that game. If I go and beat you, Zootert, with a last-minute winner, I know exactly what your angry face and and your smiley face looks like, everything like that. I know how mad you'd be, and vice versa. People just know that I lose my rag slightly. But if I had to pick someone, I'd actually go Calver. And I think I'm going to say anyone who's been on the pod is naturally a rival for me. Basically, anyone I've met on the pod or in real life, you are naturally a rival for me. But a big fucking long list of people, basically. Our final question is, though, Dan, and you get to ask a question off the back of this. For our next guest, whichever that may be, I might know, I might not know. You certainly don't know. What would you like to ask them?
So my question would be whether there'd be an appetite for a wipe of the pyramid in terms of redistributing teams across all of the divisions, so that while obviously it kind of follows on from the question I've had about, do I have a rival in the game? Yes, it builds up rivalries, but is there actually something in freshening it up every now and again and getting a whole new set of rivals to experience?
I love that question because it's quite divisive, I think, in the community. I think people will go, oh, no, I love the ladder system. Some people will actually go, do you know what? I'm fed up of this player who can't get promoted but should be promoted, and I don't deserve to be in my league, so I want them out. And so I don't think anyone could really, people obviously will be, but a nice little reshuffle after so many seasons could be, shake things up a bit, Do you like that question, Zootert? I think do you know what? You'll be the first ever guest I'm going to allow you to answer.
Right away.
Yeah, I'm going to allow you to get a little straight in there with an answer if you want to.
No, I'm 100% for it. I feel like I'm in a very strong Iron League. And just to give myself a bit of clarity in my own head to know that was actually the case, I would like to see the reshuffle.
Okay. Zootert's a pro reshuffle. Right, thank you for that question. And the next episode, we'll ask it to whoever is in the judo with us. Right, ladies and gentlemen, hashtag, you already know, hashtag, and then whatever your progression routine is. Let us know. Maybe we'll sit and have it while having their breakfast. Some people check while they're at work. Maybe for Zooters in America, it happens overnight, so it's the first thing you look at in the morning. Sod the wife, sod the kids. Progression comes first. I'm sorry. But before we wrap up this episode, we've got to say a massive thank you to the two people in the studio with us today. Zootert for joining me as a little co-host. Thank you very much, sir.
No,
thank you.
Had a blast being here again, and whenever you need a co-host, I'm happy to hop in.
Exactly. I love that. Exactly. You're racking up the caps for the maybe we need that as a stat in your MFL agency. It needs to be like, how many caps have they got for or maybe I've just got to start sending out stickers to everyone who's been on the pod. Like, that's how many caps you've got, that's how many stickers you've got. Just start giving some sort of physical item. But no, thank you, Zootert. Dacas, Dan, you're amazing in your little manager spotlight. We've been just over 2 hours now, so the folks loved the long one last time. They're going to love this one as well. Thank you for your first appearance on the podcast. I'm sure it won't be your last. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much for bringing me on. I loved it.
Awesome. So, you guys know the hashtag. You know the hashtag. You know the drill. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll catch you this time next week for an episode of the WenDirkCast. Thank you for listening.